record also for one?
I'm sorry, what?
Oh, no, as long as it's recorded. Okay. So, okay, so let's go ahead and just start. Oh, just giving thanks for the hurrah, the hurrah of this change of the seasons, just the hurrah of life, and not just, it just is, it just that just is just coming up. Ah, and so as we move in this direction of the start of the new day, the beginning of the earth turning and giving us the night, and what we see at night, I give thanks. I give thanks for this time together, knowing and trusting that it is the power and the presence of the divine source, substance, and supply that is our very life. And I give thanks. I give thanks for this time together, thriving together, knowing that this too is a thriving time for each and every one of us individually. And we have our daily hurrah. Our daily hurrah. And I give thanks and I say thank you. Thank you. And so it is. Amen.
So it is.
Wow. Lots going on, huh?
Yes.
I'm just curious, have you been listening to the CSL 100 days?
I am. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a trip. It's I think it's a wonderful thing that we're doing, and it's as I am hearing this every day. For those that don't know, CSL is doing 100 days. I think we're in day 81 of like, I think they're like less than 2-minute recordings every morning to help get us centered and grounded. We're centered, and it's just so nice to have that daily little piece of something
I like that it's
like
really
that
not
gathering
even,
together. I want to just give thanks for that. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, you froze, so I wasn't sure if you were going to keep talking. I like that it is really just a quick speaking of a principle, or a quick speaking of just something to remember about life and good and our presence. And it could really be titled, it has nothing whatsoever to do with the election, which is great.
Yes, yes. Each thing, that was the antithesis for it starting, was to help us get kind of centered. But it's fat. Yes, yes. Thank you. I'm glad you're also listening to it, Reverend Lynn. And Marilee, were you listening to it?
No, I'm sorry. I remember when it was first announced, and then I forgot about it. So
you can
no,
still sign up for it if you wanted to. I'm pretty sure you can. And our practitioner listserv, there's that on there. But I won't get into that too much more.
Okay.
But
And you can go to the website.
But it is available. I'm sorry?
You can go to the website.
Yes.
And listen to any of them.
Oh.
Or all of them.
Yeah.
All of
Okay.
Oh, I didn't know that they were all on there. I thought that every day one fell off, and then but that's fabulous. That's fabulous.
Good.
Yeah. Oh, that's excellent. I love that. So one of the things that has been coming up a lot for me, and these are really go-to, they are biblical verses, as you know, that I love the biblical study and the metaphysical interpretation that I have at this point in time in my life, this stage of where I'm at. And I recently had a birthday, and it's so wild, because it's like there's this whole thing about women get to a certain age, and then like something just like clicks, and perspective is different. My mother had a moment where, like, okay, kitchen's closed. I'm not cooking anymore. That's it. So things happen, and I've, it's interesting. And this past week, these verses kept coming up for me, and I wanted to share with you. And these are ones that have been with me since, like, I really started my science and mind study. I went from biblical study to science and mind study, and it just seemed to coalesce, show together, that was amazing for me. And one of the and this first one comes from the book of Genesis, and it's that we're created in the image and likeness of God. And so that's in the traditional conventional church that I have gone to my whole life. I've never heard really that piece spoken about, that we're created in the image and likeness of God, of source, of substance, of supply. And when we can ask ourselves, well, what is that? It's not this outer clothing that we are, this skin, this unique expression that we walk around being life as, right? But it's that thing that's inside of us, that's breathing us, that is sustaining, that is bringing forth all that is required. And so we move over to Galatians, the book of Galatians, and it tells us what that spirit is. We're created in the image and likeness of God as spirit, as source, as substance. And what is that? And we look at Galatians, and it's that we're love, joy, peace, patience, goodness, kindness, gentleness, faithfulness, self-control, depending on the translations that you're reading. There's the long suffering is one that is either self-control or long suffering. And I've always had a difficult time with that long suffering. So I don't want to suffer long. I've always had a tough one with that one. And so what I come to realize is that in self-control and that long suffering, that little piece there for me recently was that self-control, long suffering, and patience all seem to have kind of coalesced together, right? They've coalesced. That's kind of like the same kind of thing. And when I am talking about and I am thinking about these words of what is spirit, love, joy, peace, patience, goodness, kindness, gentleness, faithfulness, self-control, but it's also all of those words that vibrate, that feeling tone of what that is, right? Of what those words are, what they mean, how they feel, right? So recently there was an experience. It was in California a couple of weeks ago, and I stepped wrong it was on a backyard stairs, and they weren't all uniformed. We have this whole idea in our heads that everything is so uniform that we live in, like all the stairs are the same depth, right? Stairs are generally the same depth. Curbs are the same height. Every now and then we'll get a shock of a curb that's higher, and you step off that curb and it feels different, right? And so I stepped on this particular stair that didn't have, it wasn't as wide as the ones before it. And I just caught my toe, and I bent all the weight went down on my ankle, kind of. So I kind of like pulled some things. It wasn't feeling very good. And I didn't feel it until I got back to Hot Springs, almost 2 weeks later.
Wow.
Right? 2 weeks later, because I wasn't driving a stick shift. It was my left foot. And if I drove in those 2 weeks, I was driving an automatic, nothing on this left foot. And when I got home and I drove around, bam, swollen ankle, right? There was nothing was, it felt kind of funky, but it didn't hurt like it did here, right? When I stepped off, when I started driving that stick. But so here's the thing that happened. I went to work one day and then that was it. I can't drive around town. I can't drive a stick right now. My boss showed up into town and I wasn't getting away with not working. She picked me up and drove me all, did our tour together. Usually we drive in separate cars because our final destinations are total opposite directions. Somebody picked me up, took me here. I was supposed to drive the couple of days later, I was supposed to drive, but that didn't work out. It seemed in the appearance, in the next verse, I want to tell you, all things work together for good to those who are called according, it's his will. In biblical, it's all according to his will. It's the vibrational tone, right? It's not so much the will. We're in free will always. And that will is what vibrational tone. Remember, this thing is in us, that we're created in the image and likeness. So this free will, so we could take this. Okay, so free will, let me just back up a little bit here. So I was supposed to do a drive. It was a pleasure trip, and that got canceled. And it didn't get canceled because of my ankle, but it got canceled for other reasons that weren't very nice reasons that it got canceled. Kind of like one of those, oh, well, we're not going kind of thing, right? But the way it worked out, all things work together for good to those who are called according to his will, but who are in harmony with the divine will, with the divine source, with the divine substance that we are, right? Are we looking for the good? Am I looking for the good? Yes, I'm looking for the good in this cancellation of this weekend trip. My ankle could use the rest. To me, that was huge. In a couple of months, I want to jump rope with my granddaughter, right? That's my goal. That's the aspiration. More important than anything is to be able to jump rope, heal my ankle, right? Heal my ankle. They had some baby chicks that came in that needed mama attention. So the baby chicks got their attention. And so we could look at this thing as, oh, there was this hiccup that happened and the trip got canceled, right? But it really was working out for the good, right? These baby chicks showed up. Excuse me. These baby chicks showed up that needed care. My ankle needed care. I couldn't go hiking and all that. I needed to heal this ankle. So all things work together for good. So the key in that was, what are we looking for? Are we in tune with the good that we are? Are we in tune with that thing that is the substance, the source of our very nature, right? The source of our very nature. And it's not outside, right? There was a, as I was doing my treatment work, my self-treatment, I love writing out my own treatments. Like, write them out. There's
Sure.
something about writing, right? Keep
It's
it
good.
going. Keep it going. Oh, so here's a just let me just throw in this little tidbit about writing with one of these. Right, a pen. Good old-fashioned pen and paper. There's something that happens with our brain, our nerves, and everything coming out at the end of this pen. A friend of mine who's a retired journalist, she said to keep writing with a pen, your writing won't get squiggly. As you get older, writing gets squiggly because you don't keep writing. Practice your writing. It's good for your brain too. Even though a laptop is so much easier. So one of the part of this treatment for myself was the transformation, right? We hear, at least I do, the transforming of our minds, right? Our transforming of our minds. And so in order to transform and transcend and transmute the experiences that we're having, we have to look for the good. We have to look for that thing that we are in that situation, and everything that is showing up in our lives is a reflection of ourselves. No, this last year, this last 6 months, 3 months, I have seen this whole piece of the mirror reflecting back at me so intensely. And I just invite you to look at the mirrors showing up in your life, the view that we have of what's going on around us. And it's the view of our own creation, right? Our creation from our thinking process, the creative process that is within us, that is always manifesting, that is always saying yes, is from how we're thinking. And are we choosing the thoughts and the ideas that resonate with who and what we are? Right? Who and what we are, the source, the substance. How do we transmute and transcend those things? You know, it's great to have this kind of, yeah, well, I got this, all this information. So, but what do I do with it? How do I change it? Right? How do I change it? So what kind of tools do you use? I'll share some of the tools that I use, but what kind of tools do you use to help catch yourself? You know, Ernest Holmes says that it sounds easy, but to catch ourselves and to change, to go from the polar opposites of where we're thinking to where we want to be, it's not easy. What kind of tools do you use?
Well, I tell myself to stop. And then I know I do. I say, stop, just stop. And then I, really clear my mind. I try to make my mind empty. And then I usually will shift to doing something that's not what's bugging me in my mind, if that makes any sense.
Yes.
So that's what I just tell myself to stop. And then I change my breathing, right? And then I might change the activity as well. It works. And
Yes.
so the breathing, of course, many times I'll actually then do a mantra, God is, I am.
Yes.
Yeah. And that's what I do. It actually is effective for me.
Yes. Wonderful. Wonderful. Anyone else?
I do a combination of treatment and the affirmations that I have. Treatment to kind of bring back, just reminding me what I am, who I am, where I am, as I am, and the truth of what I am. And my favorite is I am the light, I am the love, I am the truth. And I work with that. I've brought back one that the light of God surrounds me, the love of God enfolds me, the power of God protects me. And so that one. So I kind of bounce around with those things, kind of depending on where my head is at the moment. And if at all possible, I've said before, I go outside barefoot and stare at the sun while I do that.
Nice. Nice. Nice.
I'm kind of like Diane, stop and breathe. I don't necessarily say stop, but I stop and breathe. Because when I stop and breathe and take a deliberate breath, it's always deeper. It always slows me down. It always lets me move into whatever's next.
Right.
One of the things in Kathy Ann Lewis's class that she's come up with is, oh, holy hell no. I'm liking that. I'm going, this Diane goes, stop. And I'm going, well, oh, holy hell no, we're not doing that. We're not doing that.
That's good. Oh, that's funny.
So I haven't used it much because it's new. It came out last week. And I'm going, okay. But that's something that's in my thought pattern to put into place to make that be a habit when I'm in the a place I don't need to be. I'm going, oh, hell no, we're not staying here.
Yeah.
And as for me, I just sense when a thought or a course of action or something is not going to serve me or serve whoever else might be in the part of the situation or the process with me. So I tend to just back off and say, okay, what mentally can I think to change the course of this for the highest and best of myself and whoever else might be involved. Again, I use breathing and just stopping to ask myself, what does it need to be? And I do a lot of listening and respond from what comes up for me. And usually that works. Sometimes, depending if it's more, luckily that hasn't occurred, I should knock on something. But mantras and repetitions of something I haven't had to engage in very much because usually it comes to me by changing the breathing and my thought patterns. But I know those are part of my toolbox too, if I need them.
Nice. So I am, Diane, I'm right there with you. Stop it. I do a stop it. And it was interesting that I had recently, something was very intense that came to mind while I was in California. And when that thought came in, it wasn't quite what Reverend Sue Ellen did, but it was like, I actually did a and just got it away. Got it away. No more of that. We'll have no more. But yes, yes. And one of the things also is like, if I catch myself thinking in a direction that I don't want to go, I will catch myself thinking that and stop it. And what am I doing right now? What's going on right now?
Mm.
Where am I right now? What's going on right now? And that is one that in the last yearish, that has been less than a yearish. On the lesser-ish side of it, it's like, what am I doing right now? What's going on right now? Where am I? What's right? And at times, even in discourse with someone that is unpleasant, it's even like, okay, well, ask myself, ooh, look at that color over there, just to break the intensity of the conversation, just to get off that train that's going that direction, that is not going in that, just, oh, get centered and focused in the room or the environment, the car, the sunset, whatever's going on. That's been kind of a go-to.
Sunsets.
Yeah.
I've had a few moments where I will find myself, I'm not even aware that my brain or my mind has traveled to a point that it's actually in a conversation that I really don't want to be in, or a memory of something. It's like I was daydreaming and not even aware of how I got there in that point in my head. And it's like driving home and you don't remember how you got home because you're off somewhere else. And I'll do that and I'll come to into that thought, like, oh my God, what am I? And then it's like, sometimes I just realize, like, smack myself a little. It's probably taking it a little too extreme, but I've done that. It's like, what are you doing?
That's a wild feeling, isn't it? It's just like, okay, how did I get here?
Yeah. I don't smack myself while I'm driving though. That would not look good.
Oh, yeah. Wow. Any other thoughts?
No,
So
yeah, you know, oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. Go ahead. No, please.
No, I was just looking. Was trying to take notes from the very beginning. Step out for a minute because of my dog, but fascinating. Just a short conversation to be looking at where we are and your Bible quotes that have kind of brought you to really look at the picture, created in God's image, and that list of things. And I have that list actually kind of printed out on a very pretty. Somebody gave it to me on a very pretty piece of card, thing that I could frame. I've always wanted to frame it, from Galatians. I'm lost in the point where you're talking about the long suffering.
Well, so the long suffering that so for me, the long suffering was a translation that I never could wrap myself around because I don't want to suffer. So I
Yeah.
always found that translation, and it's interesting. I was with my manager, and she's the daughter of a missionary pastor, so minister. So they try, and so we were talking biblical quotes, and she's like, is that Becky version or Susan version? And of what we're, but if we take a look at like a Bible Gateway, there is lots of different translations. If we look at the Lanier Bible, which is fantastic, the Lanier Bible, it has Aramaic, it has the Hebrew, Greek, and English translation in it. Fantastic. So depending on where you're looking at it, and so the long suffering, what I was saying about that is like the long suffering and patience and self-control seem to be words that kind of resonated in each other's closeness. Like the long suffering, long suffering could be like your patience is, you have long patience, and that's kind of where I was going with that. That's always been one that always made me go, I'm not saying that, I'm not saying I'm long suffering, but you know what, I truth be known, I have suffered a while. But when are we ready to stop suffering? Ooh, okay, Reverend Lynn, here we go. When are we ready to stop suffering? The long suffering, we have the ability to suffer longly. So this is all the download. We're suffer longly if we desire to suffer. It's interesting, long suffering. But if we want to move into love, we're no longer suffering, right? Yes, go for it.
I was going to say, we all are long suffering. If we look in the mirror, just one little tiny piece, but if we look in the mirror at our bodies, there's something we don't like about it. And we haven't liked it for a long time. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
For example, my ribs sit this far above my hips, so I have no waistline. There's not room for one. Some people have a long stretch between their ribs are here and their hips are here, and it's like, no, mine are those bones. So that's a piece of long suffering that has been with my body from the time I was a teenager, and there's no way I can do anything about it. I can either moan and groan and be upset that that's what my body is like, or I can let the daggum thing go.
Or you could go to that love it, because it's like, it's the dress code for spirit known as Reverend Sue Ellen.
That's true. That's true. It's just me. And when I get to that point and I can say I can let that go and not be worried about it, the long suffering is gone. It's just a phenomenon. It's who I am. It's like the fact that I have thin, fine hair that doesn't curl until now. All of a sudden at 75, it started to kink at the back.
Well, yours is kinking and mine is getting straight.
Okay.
long patience is interesting with long suffering,
Mhm.
because today, I have this older lady that I help drive around, and she had a friend that wanted to visit who doesn't drive. So I played taxi again, and I picked up one person at one end of the town and took her to the other end of the town with the other lady. And they didn't have as good a time today as they had thought they would. So on the drive home, the lady that I was in the back seat and I was taken home said, "How are you doing?" She goes, "Well, I keep asking for patience." And so we had this conversation about patience and God, and she was, in my opinion, she was rather suffering the day and equating it to patience, long patience. So it's just interesting that that's what I experienced in conversation, and here this is. And so she, in her like thinking out loud, she was trying to work out something different in her thoughts or in her head about that. So it's just kind of interesting. In her experience today, she was suffering and relating it to not having patience and wanting more patience. And I remember being taught a long time ago around this, that the more you ask God for patience, the more he experiences he's going to give to you to try to figure it out. So be careful what you ask for.
Always. Yes. 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 Any other thoughts? Any shares?
Your quote from Galatians, all to those who love spirit, all things work together for the, or your quote from Galatians. I'm just trying
Oh,
to.
the quote from Galatians was the love, joy, peace, patience. I don't remember exactly where all things
you mentioned. I thought you did about to those who love, all things work together for those who
for
love God.
good to. Yes,
Yeah.
I don't know if that comes from Galatians. I could look real quick.
Anyway, that brought back good memories for me, because growing up, that quote was on a little plaque on the desk in our kitchen, the office desk in our kitchen, and
Ooh.
I loved it, and it was just something that has stayed with me all my life. So I thought, oh, how cool that Susan used that, or a metaphysical version of it, in her presentation tonight. So it just brought back good memories for me when you used it. So.
Same.
All things.
Am I back?
Yes.
Okay. So yes, I love that. That's been one of my go-tos for a long time. All things work together for good to those who are called according to his will. And it's recently that it's this thing, we need to be in that vibrational tone of what the quote unquote will is. The will is to be that which thou art. Thou art that which I am that which thou art, which is love, joy, peace, patience, goodness, is the spirit, that divine essence. I could find the good, that all the things that are working out for good in my life, if I could remember to go and be in that essence of being that which I am, which is the source of love. Can I be the source of love? When I walk into difficult situations, can I be that? Can I be that so someone else can see that and see themselves as that? Or that I can help them see them as that too. But in order for me to be able to help anybody to see themselves as any of these things in themselves, I need to be able to see it and feel it myself. For me. That thing that I want for you, I have to want it for me to be able to give it to you fully. If I'm holding back on myself, there's no way I can give it to somebody.
Mm-mm.
If I am holding back on that love for Susan, I can't give it all to somebody else. I can't give a depleted love and be a whole love. I can't be a depleted joy. And when I am depleted of these things because I am wanting to do for others before I do for me, and that's been my lesson, is to want to do. And somebody asked me, I gave a friend some things the other day, and he's like, well, do you need this? And I'm like, no, I gave it to you. And I was like, doesn't mean that you don't need it just because you gave it to me. Right? So the idea of this, what is that thing that we are created in the image and likeness of, and can I take care of it? With these feeling tones of being this, so it can be its full expression of source in all areas of this. But I have to be willing to let go of the stuff that doesn't resonate in this, right? I have to be willing to let go of this. And when I see the stuff showing up in my life that is unlike this, it's not because that out there is lacking it. It's because there's something within me that I am seeing myself expressing as, whoa, where did that come from? And it may not be. So in being gentle with the self, it's not necessarily to the extreme that we're seeing it out there, right? It not necessarily to the depth that is, but that is similar, right? It doesn't necessarily need to be that explosive, but knowing that is in me too, right? Somebody just lost their marbles. Well, how would I have reacted to that? Would I too have had maybe not that extreme, but I understand that perspective. I could see their perspective, right? So it's in, again, going into the self-control, going into being this thing. And then transformation. How do we transform ourselves? We had some tools that we shared on stopping that. And then allowing the transmutation to take place. To allow the old habits, the old ways of being to just fall away. And not wanting to pick them up. Kind of like there's another biblical quote that about Lot's wife. Do you remember that one? That's pretty classic. Where Lot's wife turned and looked behind, and then she became a pillar of salt. Do you remember that quote? Do you remember that when Sodom and Gomorrah was burning and Lot's wife was instructed not to look back? And so looking at these ideas of being that source, that substance, that supply, the goodness, the fruit of the spirit. I think a big hindrance could be our desire to continue to look back and how our life was, like as you know, Lynn mentioned, like going to memory lane, and we have totally forgotten where we're driving down the road because we're in this thought pattern. And that thought pattern that we're unconsciously in is part of that thing that is being called forth, right? If we're allowing it to run amok, we're calling it all forth. So the quicker that we can, excuse me, catch ourselves, the quicker our transformation, our transmutation, our transcending happens, right? Our transcending into a higher state of consciousness happens when we are willing to let go of the past. Willing to let go of the past, willing to let go of those old ways of being. Diane, tell me, you look like you got a sweet nugget that came in. I saw it drop in.
No, I like the words transcend, transmute, transform. I like those.
You like, yeah.
Yeah, those are nice words. And so that's what you saw was me appreciating
Yeah,
that.
I saw.
I like that, right?
Yeah.
The onward and upward.
Yes, the onward and upward. Let's, and it's like we go, maybe, like every now and then there might be that little dip, like when the eagle is flying higher and higher to the nest, there might be a little lull in that windbreak, but it's like, let's not get caught in that downward spiral. Let's just keep going. And the most interesting part of it is the self-care and the self-love and the self-appreciation and the self-enoughness. One of the recent tools, I don't know if you've seen Bashir. He said, I am what I am and I am enough.
Yeah.
I started using that as the beginning of, and I'll go ahead and close this out. Before I close this out,
Oopsies.
number if you would like to tithe to our inner journey. The number is 504-337-9739, and the drop down name is Harmony, which will
Did you say Harmony?
yes.
405, not 504.
Did I write the wrong number down, Reverend Sue Ellen?
It's 405.
Oh, let me see. Did I misspeak, or which was it? 405?
Yes.
Okay. I misspoke then.
Yeah.
Hey, Susan, I have a quick question.
Yes.
The quote, I am what I am and I am enough. Who is that again?
You know what is Bashir is his last name. I'm not sure what I don't remember what his first name is. But and thank you for asking that, Diane. One of the pieces that I have worked my my prayer work, and I'll share with you, and I'll close this out with our closing treatment, is I am what I am and I am enough. I am what I am and I am enough. I am what I am and I am enough, for I am created in the image and likeness of God. Created as love, joy, peace, patience, goodness, kindness, gentleness, faithfulness, and self-control. And all that resonates with the divine essence and presence that is love. And I give thanks for knowing and trusting that this power, this presence, this allness, this goodness, this thing that is the source, the substance, and the supply of my very breath of life. I give thanks. I give thanks knowing and trusting that my life is the life of God in expression. And I know that each and every one of us is the life of God in expression. that there is absolutely nothing that has held back from us. And I claim and affirm that right here and right now, that any thoughts, ideas that no longer serve are moved away with ease and grace and compassion effortlessly to the nothingness from which they came. Allowing this idea, this essence, this presence that is the idea of our very existence, that we exist from this very idea of being expressed, life expressed as us. And I claim and affirm any hindrance to that is boom, boom, gone. No longer serves. And right here and right now, I just invite you to take a deep breath. And with this breath, just bring in that I am what I am and I am enough. For I am created in the image and likeness of God. And I give thanks for these words. I give thanks for this trust, knowing and trusting the power and the presence of God. And I rejoice and I let go and I let God. And so it is. Amen.
So it is.
Beautiful.
Wonderful.
Just lovely.
Okay,
Yes.
so I'm going to make an odd suggestion.
Okay.
Write that down. I am, say it again. I am who I am.
I am what I am and I am enough.
I am what I am and I am enough because I'm a child of God. Okay. I am what I am and what I am is enough because I'm a child of God. So write that sentence, any sentence that you want to make an affirmation of. Figure
Yes.
out where you could put a capital letter in it and figure out where you could put a punctuation mark in it of some kind or a number. And then use the first initial of each word and make it a password. So that every time you have to enter that password, you're saying, I am what I am, and what I am is enough because I am a child of God. So you're
That's-
because in order to remember it, you're going to have to go, I am what I am. And
Yes.
just saying.
That's a good one.
That's a good idea. Very good
You
idea.
can do any kind of affirmation, and then you can change your password once you got that one down, 6 months from now. Oh, time to change my password. Let me change it to, and whatever the new phrase is.
Yes.
With a different series of letters.
Yeah, right. And
Yes.
you can do things. I've done things like make all the A's in the thing, of the A's in it. And so it is, an A would be 1 because it's the first letter of the alphabet. Or if you got 4 in the word, there's a greater good for me. 4, you can just use the number there. Because sometimes you have to do some passwords want you to have letters or numbers, and you can always put an exclamation part at the end, point at the end,
Yes.
to be your special character. Just, a sentence that you can think of.
Nice. I like that.
I do. I like that idea.
I like the idea of passwords because I am forever like changing my password.
Yeah, it's a good thing to
We
do.
all are in this day and age, it seems.
Oh my goodness.
Somebody's going to be going, oh my gosh, what phrase, what sentence would she have used this time?
Oh, that's so good.
Just saying. Are we complete with the recording?
I think so.
Okay, I'll turn it off.